The family farm, a tradition in Canada going back 200 years. Today's farmers face the same challenges as their forefathers. Weather, soil fertility, pests, commodity prices. But today's family farm is a vast and complex enterprise, employing cutting-edge technology. From breakthroughs in genetics, communications, and chemistry, we grow our food more quickly with less energy, less environmental impact, and in greater abundance than ever before. But farmers face a new challenge. Consumers and activist groups have called into question, has technology made our food different? Is our food safe? Consumers are increasingly concerned that the romantic ideal of farming is gone, replaced by industrial food operations that grow inferior food, less satisfying and less nutritious. Many people also believe that farmers are forced to buy seeds from certain companies, are virtual slaves to unfair policies, and are no longer in control of their land or the crops they grow. But does this perception match the reality?
A lot of people want their lives to change, but they don't want farmers' lives to change. So a lot of people would be really, really insulted if you told them they had to put away their iPhone and they had to go back to a phone that you actually turned the crank on in order to get 3 rings. So their idea is, though, that farmers will continue to use the technology that was around when the phone was a crank phone.
It's confusing when we hear about corporate farms versus family farms. And the truth is that 97% of the farms in Canada are still family owned and operated. And that includes ours, regardless of the fact that it's larger in size. That's become a reality of our business.
Most consumers believe that farmers are forced to use specific GMO seed and specific pesticides from big companies, but that's not true at all. In fact, farmers make those decisions because it's what's best for growing those crops most efficiently. It actually lets them to produce more food on the same amount of land.
The efficiency with which you use land is a really important environmental metric. If you can get the maximum yield from the smallest area of land, then you can spare a much larger area for the rainforest and for wetlands and for other areas of habitat which are really important for natural species. If, on the other hand, the whole world has to go organic and go back to using, old technologies from the 1950s, then we'd have to double the area of land which we're ploughing up, which would mean destroying the rainforest and so on. And nobody gets this, right? Everyone thinks that organic is better for the environment, but because it's less productive, because by definition it uses more land, that's actually a much worse issue if you're concerned about biodiversity and conservation.
If science can continue to be a part of seed development, farmers are going to have more opportunity to grow the food that we need with potentially the use of less pesticides, with better disease prevention, some drought tolerance. The seed varieties that have science behind them allow us to better manage our risk in the field. Mother Nature is really the one that controls the weather. The farmers are the ones that have to do the best job we can to grow a healthy plant given the environment that we're in.
The scientific consensus about food safety is not new, and farmers have always used the most cutting-edge technology available. Canada's own regulatory agencies and the farmers themselves know that the food we grow and the way we grow it is safe. And yet, in the public sphere, a passionate debate continues, a debate that seems to have less to do with science and more to do with a battle for public perception.
Certainly one organization can make a difference, but if we work with others, we'll have a bigger impact. So we've been working with partners such as agriculture in the classrooms so that people understand what agriculture is. SaskCanola is also looking at doing work with dietitians, culinary schools, people like that, so they can understand that the food that they're cooking with and they're providing people is safe and actually has some real healthy attributes.
The reason that negative agricultural information or myths about food get more traction than positive information or scientific information is very much the same reason that murder makes page 1 of the newspaper.
There are very few emotions that humans have that really make us want to act, and fear, that's one of them.
It's easy to develop this fear that somehow you've mixed large amounts of genetic information and you've created something totally different. Again, nothing could be further from the truth.
People have always been suspicious of new technologies and new innovations. I've heard it said that the French opposed the refrigeration of meat because they worried it would contaminate it. And people also think that natural things are less risky, which is completely illogical.
Relatively until recent times, until 70, 80 years ago, 70% of the population was somehow involved in farming. Today, it's less than 2%. 2% of the population is providing the fantastic amount of food that we enjoy. Well, that obviously had to come about with some innovations in technology. And then, of course, there is the romanticized idea that a small farm somehow produces better quality food than what is possible to do on quote, industrial farms today.
It's called a naturalistic fallacy, and that's one of the great myths of our time. So you can misinform 1 million people using YouTube much more quickly and much more easily than some expert can come back and tell them the truth.
It's sometimes disappointing and a little bit painful to talk to people and have them talk about what I do with so little understanding of what I do. We want to take care of the land that we grow it on because this is the land that we've had for generations. I love farming and I love the way that we farm.
With every sort of added regulation or policy that gets put into place based on consumer concerns as opposed to scientific concerns, it's not necessarily going to always be the farmer's choice of how they operate.
If farmers don't stand up and speak out and become their own advocates and tell their own stories, this trend of other people telling their stories for them is going to continue, and it's going to grow exponentially.
If farmers don't take the opportunity to speak up about the decisions that we want to make, my fear is that we will lose that privilege.
Generations of farmers have struggled and prospered here, but the landscape has changed, and their biggest challenge yet still remains: standing up to dispel the myths about modern agriculture. Will Canadian farmers make themselves heard before it's too late? Or will they stay silent and lose their license to farm?